All right, good morning. This is Mr. Robertson. It is Tuesday, April the 7th, 2026. So the campus is closed today because of storm damage from, I guess it was Saturday night. So today I'm going to do a classical argument review and some stuff about evidence. Um, I think on Thursday we will, well, I mean, the campus is closed, so we're not going to meet on Thursday. But I think today we'll do this review, and then on Thursday, I may or may not send you something. We're going to be working on the classical argument essay that's due a week from today. So I will be, reviewing your stuff and giving you feedback on those things. I'll get to some of the due dates here in a second. So if you did not do the classical argument outline that was due this past Saturday, April 4th, you can still do it. I have only got, I think, four. I haven't checked today, but I've not gotten that many from you guys. So if you have not turned that in, please do so. There's some points associated with it, but also I think the most important part is that you get some feedback on your thesis statement and the overall structure. I just want to make sure that you have that down, you understand how it's supposed to work. If you have that thesis statement and you have the structure kind of laid out, it's going to make it so much easier for you to write that when the time comes. So please get that in if you can. The rough draft is due tonight. There are two assignments related to the rough draft. So the one that's due today is the rough draft for instructor review, and that goes to me, and I will look at that and I will give you detailed feedback, and you can incorporate that feedback. So that's valuable for you to get that feedback. It's going to help you definitely get a better grade and work out any kinks that you have in the paper. There is a second rough draft assignment that is due Thursday. I did not put that on here, but it's a forum. It's like a peer review forum for you and your classmates. So basically, you just upload your rough draft, and then you go in and you find somebody else's rough draft and you make comments on that and tell them what you think and help them improve their draft, hopefully. When you do that, please be kind. Give them meaningful feedback and give them good suggestions if you can. Just, be positive and not rude. Okay, and like as I said, the classical argument, the final version of that is due a week from today, Tuesday, April 14th. So be working toward that. I can accept that late until Friday, April the 17th. So that gives you 3 extra days if you need it. The assignment in Moodle is set to not allow late submissions. So if you try to turn it in after midnight on the 17th, it will not let you upload it. So what you will need to do is email me and say, hey, I need an extension, and I will go in to turn it in and give you an extension, and you'll be able to upload the paper. If it's after Friday at midnight on the 17th, then it's unfortunately going to be a zero unless there's some like really incredible emergency or something that happened. Let me know if that's the case. But that is kind of the policy, and I have to be pretty strict about these essays. So please be aware that I mean business with that and get it turned in, um, hopefully by the original deadline, and then if not, by Friday. If you have some kind of technical problem, which does happen with Turnitin, sometimes people have issues with it not loading, or there's something weird going on, you lose internet. So I don't know, whatever it is, try to email me the paper directly and I can upload it. Excuse me again if it's late. You don't need the extension if you're just going to email it to me, but you have some different options there. So technical problems are not really going to hold you back. Okay, so that is all of the due date stuff, and that's kind of where we're at this week. Like I said, if I get your rough drafts today when they're due or tomorrow, I will be looking at those and giving you guys feedback. You can ask me questions. I think Thursday, again, I might send you a video of some kind, but I'm going to do a review today. And really, that's kind of it that you need to know. When we're back next week, hopefully on Tuesday, we're going to swing right into the second essay. So we'll start talking about the Rogerian argument. So between now and next Tuesday, it's all about writing those essays and getting that done. So again, if you need support from me, let me know. All right, so I'm just going to run over a review components of the classical argument. It includes the introduction, the narration, the confirmation, the refutation or counter argument, and the conclusion. Please follow this structure. That confirmation section is going to be more than one paragraph. It will be however many subclaims you have. So you might have, ideally, you have 3 subclaims. So there are going to be 3 confirmation paragraphs that will explain and support your subclaims, right? We'll go through each section really quickly. The introduction is just creating interest. What are we talking about? Why is this important? What sort of the ethos part, establishing ethos. You're setting the tone. You're demonstrating your knowledge of the subject. You're talking about experience or education. You're trying to signal to the reader that you know what you're talking about and that you're going to give them an authoritative rundown of your argument. The narration, it's mostly background. So if you start off your introduction, just kind of giving a little bit of an overview. In this section, you would say, like, in the past, these were the policies, these are the things that happened that got us from where we were to where we are now. And this is, catching the reader up to the entrance point of where your argument begins. The confirmation, again, these are where you talk about your subclaims. These are basically topic paragraphs. If you remember from maybe high school English or in Comp 1, you have topic paragraphs, right? You have a topic sentence that's like, this is what this paragraph is going to be about. So you're going to say the first reason that my claim is true is this reason, and this is why this reason is valid. So this is the evidence that I have for that. Excuse me. So the refutation or counter argument, you're just presenting the best arguments of the opposing side of the argument you're making. So if you were arguing for increased funding for trade school, that's an example that I'll get into in a few minutes. There might be counter arguments, and you're saying that, trade school is good, like career tech jobs. There's a lot of jobs that are good paying jobs and so on. And you have this argument that somebody, the opposite argument might be like, no, we should not put funding into that because maybe there's already funding, or we already spend a lot on that, or whatever the reasons are. You have to kind of figure out what the counter argument is and present that to the reader. And then you will maybe make a concession and say, they have a good point, but I am still right for these reasons. It's important that you do this, pay some attention to the counter argument, because when we do the second essay, you're going to argue this same issue from 2 sides. And so having an understanding of what that other side is going to be will help give you a head start. Also, it just makes this paper stronger if you pay attention and have some evidence and lay out the counter argument in an authoritative and thoughtful way. All right, the conclusion, it's a conclusion. What were your strongest points? Maybe you could address the counter argument again. The conclusion may urge the audience to some kind of an action. So if you, again, are arguing for increased funding for something like career tech, you could say something like, people should contact their congressional representatives to request that funding is increased, or something like that. You can have a call to action. Again, you want to leave the audience with your strongest points. So they kind of, as they disengage from you, they have that in mind. All right. So just real quick, talking again about claims, claims and subclaims or reasons. The claim is just your overall claim. Again, I'll use this example in a minute when I talk about how I would like to see you use evidence. But, a claim might be, the state of Oklahoma should increase funding for career tech programs. That is your claim. This is a thing we should do. This is my position, and I'm going to argue that. That claim is then supported by reasons or subclaims, and those subclaims can be supported by external evidence, emotional appeals, logical appeals, and so on. We've kind of gone over this in class. I'm just kind of running through it. If you guys have questions about any of this, of course, you can email me. Again, reasons or subclaims are just the key points that support the main claim. Is like, why? Why are you making this claim? If we need to increase funding for career tech programs, why? You need to have, reasons that you can explain to the reader, telling them why you want your claim to be supported or accepted by them. This is in the textbook. You guys have access to that on through the Moodle page. If you go to that McGraw-Hill section, you can open that up. There's a lot of helpful things like this in there. I didn't want to run through all of the different claim types in this. I kind of went through them in class, and it's a little bit long, and sometimes it's a little bit redundant. So just understanding that there are different claim types. So claims of fact, this thing is the case because statistics and data prove it to be, research shows, personal experience shows. A claim of definition is just like, this is the definition of this. This authority supports this definition. The dictionary just defines this as being what it is. Claim of policy, it'll save money, it'll produce results, it will increase happiness, and so on. There's claims of cause and effect. So if we do this, then this other thing will happen. Like, for example, say you were arguing that we should ban single-use plastic bags. If we ban single-use plastic bags, we will have less pollution and we will attract more tourists. So if this happens, this other thing will happen. And then a claim of value, doing this is better because it is more effective, practical, whatever. It's morally right. It's endorsed by these people. Those are the different types of claims. It's useful to kind of keep that in mind. If you're not sure what kind of claim you're making, thinking about it and figuring that out can help you understand the best way to communicate that to the reader. Okay. So I did want to talk a little bit more about evidence and how to use evidence. I've been thinking about how to communicate this to students better than I have been, and it's a little bit of a moving target. This is a common construction that I get. So, I think when you read the instructions for what the requirement of a paper is, it's like you have to make, again, this topic sentence, it's a subclaim, and then you need to support it with evidence. Well, a lot of times people will just stick one quote in that kind of supports what they're saying. And it usually does in a very broad way. Like, it's good that students are following this structure and they understand that some evidence needs to be in there. But as we kind of work into Comp 2, we need to have a little bit more of a sophisticated strategy for using evidence. And I think maybe going from a broad piece of support and using more specific bits of support to support that. So, like, for example, here they're saying college is expensive and many college students have to take out loans. Many people will not benefit from a college degree. Marvin et al. Say in their paper, not everyone's good at college, that many people are not good at college and won't benefit from a degree. Okay, so they're using evidence. They're using this quote to just support the thing they already said, which is fine. But then you need to add more to that. How many people are not good at college on average? How many people get a degree that they don't really benefit from, that they don't make enough money to pay for the loans? I get this a lot. This supports the claim that not everyone is good at college and not everyone who goes to college will finish. Again, you're just saying the same thing and trying to stretch this out into a whole paragraph. If you write like this, I can detect, I see this a lot. You're rambling. When people do this, they're rambling to kind of fill in the space, right? They're trying to include quotes, and then they're trying to meet the page requirement. I think for the classical argument, it's 2 to 3 pages required. And so sometimes it's just kind of repeating to kind of fill out the space. So this is what I would like you to avoid doing if possible. So as you kind of work through this, one way that you can help yourself avoid doing that is by asking yourself some questions. So the overall claim is that Oklahoma State government should provide funding for career tech scholarships, right? That would be in the thesis statement. This is my main claim for this paper. And then there's going to be subclaims, right? Subclaim 1, we should provide funding for career tech because there are many trade jobs available that pay well. Another reason is because trade jobs are stable. Another reason is because trade jobs will allow people to start a good paying career with less debt. So these are the three, again, in the confirmation paragraphs, these are the three subclaims or reasons that I'm going to use the bulk of my evidence to support. And so if you go to subclaim 1, there's many trade jobs available. What are some questions that you would ask if you were reading this paper? What kind of evidence? And then once you've identified those questions, what kind of evidence will you need? So like I've put together some questions. You might have some different questions as you work through if you work through this specific subclaim, you might have different questions. There's a lot of questions that could be asked. And as you go through your paper and your subclaims, of course, it's going to be very different. But like just this morning, as I put this together, as if I was reading this paper, someone made the subclaim, it would be their topic sentence of a confirmation paragraph. The first reason we should support state funding for career tech is because there are many trade jobs available that pay well. Great. So some of my questions are going to be like, what kind of jobs are we talking about? Can you be specific? Are they like electrical jobs? Are they HVAC, like heat and air jobs? Are they plumbing? Is it carpentry? Is it auto mechanics? Like what are we talking about? Be more specific. What industries do they fall in? So it's kind of related to those same kind of jobs, but like say it was electrical related and it's entry level like installation like in residential versus commercial electricians, right? So you might want to like designate, okay, commercial electrical work is hiring right now, residential is kind of saturated, if that was the case. So differentiating the industry or maybe sub-industry. How many jobs are available? I had this one in a different class where a student made the broad claim that there's a lot of jobs. And so just with a little bit of quick searching, I found a piece of evidence for them that basically the CEO of Ford Motor Company said they have 5,000 auto mechanic jobs that pay between $100,000 and $120,000 a year, and that they're having trouble filling those jobs. So that was from a newspaper article, and it was a reliable source because the guy said it out loud in public, and it was reported in several different publications. And so that was a quick thing for me to go find, and I can then now add a source to my works cited and cite that as a piece of evidence that will be compelling, right? It's just, you don't have to cover every single industry and how many jobs for every industry. If you just give an example of one or two to illustrate your point, that really goes a long way. And even if you're not using academic sources from the library database, like we talked about, definitely use those databases for your main sources if possible, but you can go out to other places and collect bits of information that will help support your topic sentence. So again, like how much do they pay? On average, trade jobs pay this month. Like you can find a lot of government data on this stuff. There are all kinds of sources. People study this. There are going to be newspaper articles. There probably be some things in the academic databases and so on about this kind of thing. Also, how long will it take to train? Because if we're talking about, trade school versus college, college is supposed to take 4 years. A lot of times it takes longer than that. Like if you took an like a normal, like a 12-hour per semester kind of level of classes, it would take you longer than 4 years. It would take a while. So that becomes an advantage for the career tech. Like it might take 1 or 2 years to finish those certifications, and then you can be out doing a job without, accruing more loan debt. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So subclaim, I'm going to run through these. Subclaim two, because trade jobs are stable. So again, what would you ask if you were the reader? Like, how are they stable? Like, what does that mean? And what kind of evidence would you need if you were going to write that? So again, like these are just some questions that I came up with. Like, what does stable mean? Like, does that mean, um, you're never going to have to change your job? Does that mean if you do have to change your job, it's semi easy to get another job in the same field? Like, what do you mean by stable? Um, if you're focusing on one or two jobs or industries, what are the long-term projections? Like again, the government, like the Bureau of Labor Statistics, collects a lot of this data. Newspapers, journals, all the different people use that data in different ways to report on things. So you can find that information pretty easily. That's a quick Google search, and you can find something pretty reliable. And I will say too, I feel like a lot of times people get a little hung up on, not using things from the college databases. Like, of course, academic stuff is better. Like, that's what we're kind of trying to get you guys used to using. But I think, I mean, honestly, it's way better to use something that is not as, I guess, academically authoritative than to use nothing at all. So, again, feel free to go out and find information wherever you can find it. You're trying to like gather a lot of evidence to support your claims here and your subclaims. So again, what jobs industries have the best long-term outlook? If I become an auto mechanic, how's that going to look? Because if I learn how to work on, you know, traditional gasoline powered automobiles, and the industry is moving toward electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles, and that's a specialized skill set, I'm going to want to go where the industry is headed, right? I would want to learn how to work on electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles rather than old style cars, because, my job might go away if I can only do that one thing that is going to be obsolete eventually. What's the salary growth potential over the long term? How much can I make eventually? All right, subclaim three, because trade jobs would allow people to start a good paying career with less debt than a college degree. Again, what would you ask? What would you want to know if I made that claim, in a topic sentence at the beginning of a paragraph? Um, how much does it cost to get a trade school certification? So, like I said, it might take 1 or 2 years. I used to work at a career tech, and so I saw people come in a lot and they would retrain as adults, and then a year would go by and then they would be gone. So um, it's shorter, so you might assume that it's cheaper, and I think that that probably is true. But how much does it cost? Like, how much on average? What kind of financial aid can you get? Is it the same as college, or is it different? What would student look like for trade school versus college? I know there are lots of resources available that will tell you how much student loan debt people carry on average when they get a bachelor's degree or even a graduate school degree. So, what does that look like for trade school? I don't really know if people have to take out those loans or if there are job placement programs that pay for some of that. And then how long does it take? It might take a year or two. So that's going to have an impact on how much it's going to cost and how much debt you're going to have. And of course, in this one, you're kind of comparing with a college degree. So you do need to go and look at what the college degree would cost. How long does it take on average for people to get that degree? What kind of jobs can they get with a bachelor's degree? Like, what are people's overall levels of success? And again, all this information is out there. You just have to kind of go hunt for it. And you guys have honestly access to amazing search engines that can pull up almost any bit of information that you might want. So it's definitely well worth the effort. And I think it's well within your time constraints and and your level of how we're writing